Welcome everyone to this Java Spring tutorial. So today we'll learn about server-sent events and we'll build a news timeline application to practice some real-time events with Java Spring Boot. So what are server-sent events? So server-sent events are real-time events. They are one kind of HTTP streaming and used for unidirectional communication. So only the server can push events to the clients, but the clients cannot send events to the server, not like WebSocket, which is for bidirectional communication. So server sent events are emitted by server and received by the browser. How? First, the client subscribes to a stream of data. We leave the connection open between the client and the server. Then the server can send as many events as he wants. For the use case, for example, you can send updates or continuous data streams to different client browser and different subscriber. So first, the client send a first connection request. The server responds to this request, and at this point, the connection is established between client and server, and we leave this connection open. So the server can send different events to the clients. And we can also have many clients and many servers endpoint. So as a requirement for this demo, we'll use Spring Boot. So you can download the IDE Spring Tools on this URL. And we use the event source JavaScript API introduced in HTML5. And we'll also use Postman to send some REST requests to the server, then to dispatch those requests to all the client. So you can go on this website of Spring IO tools and download your IDE Spring Tools. The same for Postman. You can go on the website and download your Postman. So first, let's create a Spring Boot project. So I have my Spring Tools just here, new Spring Starter project. I have to give a name to my project. So real-time news. I'm using Java 8. The other parameters are the default one. Here, I need to use some dependencies, Spring Boot DevTools, then Spring Web. Finish. So I have my project set just here with my main method to execute my Spring Boot application. So I want that my application run on some port. So server port equal to 6033, for example. Then in my application, I will create a controller. So news controller, finish. So it's a REST controller. Then in my controller, I will need two methods. Method for subscription, for client subscription, and one method for dispatching events to all clients. So we'll just need one class, one controller, news controller, and just two methods, one for subscription and the other to dispatch events. So first, let's create a subscription endpoint. So here I will need ECC emitters. So this very important Java object for server-sent events. So subscribe. And here I will return an ECC emitter. So I will create an ECC emitter. So equal new ECC emitter just here. And I will return it. So that's my endpoint. So I have, and that's all. So in my endpoints, so I have to use the request mapping annotation. I have to give a value for my endpoint, for example, just subscribe. Then I will just put some consumption parameter. So consumption media type or value. And here I will put a cross-origin annotation because I didn't configure my Spring Boot application to handle some cross-origin concerns. But the clean way is not using this annotation, but configure it properly. So that's the endpoint for the subscription. I will just send an event to my clients to initiate the subscription. So I will use ECC emitters builder for events. So name. So init. I will need to use try catch for IO exception. So that's all. But when the client will subscribe to the event source, we need to store it to send another events to the clients. So here I will create a list of emitter. It's not this package. So we have some ECC emitter here. So emitters equal new. I will use copy on array list because it's a thread safe implementation of list interface. So you can go on the documentation, copy on array list. So it's thread safe, and to use it with many subscribers like that, it's a good choice. So here I will store my ECC emitter because it's the only object reference that holds the connection with the clients. So we can use it afterwards and send other events to my client. So that's all. So let's create the HTML page. So here I have an empty HTML page. I have used just some link for some basic stuff, Bootstrap and jQuery. So we have to use the event source JavaScript API only where the document is loaded. So in the script tags, I will use the JavaScript function document ready. So it will be executed when the document will be loaded. So here I will use var. So here event source equal the object event source. And as an argument, I must give him an URL. So I will create an URL here. URL endpoint equal to some URL. So that's all to subscribe to an event source. Just use the URL. So here I will use the endpoint subscribe of my Spring Boot application. So it will be running on HTTP localhost, then the port is 6033. Do you remember? In the application property, it's my port. Then the endpoint is subscribe. So that's all to subscribe a client. So let's run the application just here. This is my empty HTML page. I will go on network, and here I will start my Spring Boot application, real-time news. Start. I will wait for my application to start. So my application is started. I will refresh my page. So I have my script here, document ready, and my event source just here. So refresh. It's not working. Why? So I have subscribe here. $60.33. I will put a breakpoint just here. Failed to construct event source. I have just forgot the new operator. So new event source. So now it will be better. So network, load. I will get rid of my breakpoint. And here I have my subscription. I have a status of 200. And here I have a new section, which is event stream. And we can see that the content type is text event stream. So the subscription is done. So now let's use the other method. Let's create the other method to dispatch events. So here I will create another method to dispatch some events. So public void dispatch events to clients. Then I will use a request param string fresh news, for example. I just have to stop my application. Then for my endpoint, I will also use a request mapping in here to dispatch event. And the method of, or we can just use post mapping. So that's all for the annotation. Then I will loop over this list where I stored my different clients. So here for ECC emitter, So emitter, in emitters, I will send event to every emitter. So here the name is latest news or just latest news and some data. And for the data, I can put the fresh news that I will receive from the request. So that's all for to dispatch event to different subscribers. So now I will use Postman. So when you will download Postman, you can create a new collection just here. So news event the source create, then I will add a request. So news request, and here I have my REST request. So it will be a post because here it's a post mapping, and the value will be localhost 6033, and my endpoint is dispatch event. And in the body, I will put some data of my request param. So fresh news. For example, Corona is ending. So now we are good. So what I will do now, I will just check from different events in the network. So I will restart my application, real-time news. So I'm waiting for the start. So here, when I will load my page, here I have a subscription in of just here. So my emitter is stored in this list. So here I can go there. So when I will use my request in Postman, so I will just send a simple request to this endpoint. Then I will loop over my emitters and send an event to all my clients. That's all. So here the subscription, here I will dispatch some events. So here I will have some problem because it's already complete. So because we can use some ECC emitters are completed and we can remove them from the list. So here I can use on completion I will use lambda and here I will remove emitter from my list. So remove this emitter. So when my ECC emitter is completed, I will remove it. But the problem here is that I don't put any timeout in my ECC emitter. So here I have used this constructor just here without timeout. But we can create an ECC emitter with custom timeout value. So here is we can put long So we'll just put the maximum of this value. So max value. So that's all. I will run my application, restart it. Then first I have a subscription. I will use my Postman. And here I have another exception. Why? IO exception. Client abort exception. Because because we are storing many ECC emitters in the copy on array list, but when clients quit, we are not removing the ECC emitters. So we can remove it here. When we will try to send an event to an ECC emitter and he is not present, we'll just remove it from the list. And that's all. So now I have subscribed to my endpoint. I will use Postman to dispatch my event. And here I have my latest news. Corona is ending. Hallelujah. And it's the value I have give to my request, fresh news. So let's build an article, some news article application with this. So we can add an event listener for our event source. So here, add event listener. Then, for example, the event will be the name of my event, latest news, just here. And we'll use some function to do some stuff with these events. So here, I will have an event. And for example, I will just add some code to add some news articles. So I have some CSS. Normally it's more clean in another CSS file, but it's okay. So I have my CSS here for my little application and for my event listener. So every time I will receive an event, I will use JSON parse to parse my events and add some article of this event, just like that. So here I am parsing my events data. So it's the data just here. Then I want to use console log. So you can use console log to look at your event the first time. It can be interesting to go step by step. So here event.data. So here every time my event source will receive an event of latest news, he will display this on the console. So here I will load my application. I have a subscription just here. This is just a navbar with Bootstrap, just here, just to decorate a little my application and with some basic CSS code. So those are some static elements. So my subscription is done. in my console there is nothing. So when I will send an event, so here I have my events. Corona is ending, and here hello hal send. Here I have received 2 times these events. So latest news here send, and here I have my different events. So I can use those events to build some articles. So for that I will need some JavaScript code. So here I will receive an events, then I will use string parse my events to transform an events from Java string to JSON format. Then I will use a function to add some article data to the block. For example, I will create some news article with a title and with some content. So this function, I will create it just here. So it's a function that is building some HTML element, article tag, h3 title, some paragraph, and in the end it will take this div of wrapper div and add the HTML element to this div. So the principle is very simple. So for that, I have to change my Postman request. So here I want a title, and here I want some content, or some, in my JS I have used text. So I have to change my controller. So here I want a title, and here I want some text. So I have to transform that to a string, in a JSON format. So string event formatted, so equal new for now, and I will put my events just here in the when I will send events to my ECC emitter. So I will need some dependencies. These dependencies, I have the dependency in another project. The dependencies for JSON is just here, dependency org JSON with this version. So we'll go to the POM of my project, so POM XML, and here I will add my dependencies. So I can transform the toString to a string with a JSON format. So to do that, I will use an object, and this object is JSON object. So string is new JSON object, just here. And here I will put the title, the title will be this one. Then I will put the text, the content of the article, just here. And here a little toString. So that's all. I am formatting the message I received, and I am sending the message to the client. And here in my text, for example, Corona news, and here Corona is living its last days. It will finish soon, and everyone will be free. So that will be my article. just to put some contents. So that's all. And here in my clients, when I will receive this event, latest news, so I will add this block to my wrapper div. So that's all. So let's test all that. So here I load my page, subscription, and here I will send my article, and we have an exception because I didn't restart my application, I think. So restart. My application is started. So here, clients, subscription, will dispatch an event, and here we have our article. So I can send as many events as I want to the clients. So I can also have another clients and another one. And every time I send an event, all the clients will receive these events. So here, latest. So here I have received these events, and the other client also, and the first clients also. Let's share. So that's how we have dispatched events and used server sent events. So there is some stuff I have to tell you about server sent events. For example, the timeout just here is very important to decide, for example, on your needs. And here I have used emitters, remove emitter, because I'm not able to detect when the client is not connected with my emitter anymore. And in the client side, you can do better than that. So, for example, you can use the window on before load. So, for example, when your window will be unloaded, you can close your event source. And you can also add some event. So when there is some error, you will just close the event source. And you can also send some events to specific users. So how?